Hello, individuals and other individuals. I am Don of Caricatures by Don. Welcome to Caricatures by Don, the video channel where I, Don, a caricaturist, going under the name Caricatures by Don, draw caricatures, specifically the ones that are by me, Don, of Caricatures by Don. And then this intro has already gone completely off the rails. I am going to start over. Hello, individuals and other individuals. I am Don of Caricatures by Don. In addition to the sketch process videos that I've been posting, I've also been wanting to make some videos just generally discussing various topics related to the art of caricature. For this, my first such video, I thought it'd be a good idea to start with the most basic, fundamental caricature-related topic. What is a caricature anyway? If we're going to be talking about caricatures a lot on this channel, we are. It's probably worthwhile to start by addressing this basic question, especially given that in my experience in dealing with clients who have hired me for live events, people who have commissioned caricatures from me, people who have had their caricatures drawn by me at parties or at my retail spot, etc. Different people seem to have different ideas of what to expect. Like their exposure to caricatures, to whatever degree they have been exposed to them, has led different people to perceive the definition of the word caricature differently. In all my years of caricaturing, so many years, I am so old, I've heard many people try to explain to others, usually but not always when speaking to children, what a caricature is. And some of the often amusing, almost always inaccurate definitions I've heard them ascribe to the word have kind of stuck with me. The most common inaccurate definition of caricature that I used to hear a lot in the 90s when I first started, not so often these days, is that's where they draw you with a big head and a small body. Heard that one a lot. Back then, it was generally assumed that if you got your caricature drawn at a theme park or a party or wherever it was, it would include a theme, a gag, a small body doing some activity or sight gag or whatever it might be. That's not so automatic an assumption these days. I wonder why that's changed. Maybe a topic worth looking into for a future video? I don't know. I'm not going to focus on that right now. The point that I'm trying to make is that because it was so common to get the big head and the small body, a lot of people seem to get it into their heads that the small body was what made a drawing a caricature. That was their definition of it. But that's not really what the word means. Other inaccurate definitions I've heard have included that's where they draw you with a big nose. I've heard more than one person say that. That's where they draw you as a cartoon character. That's a common one. Closer maybe, but still missing the point. My personal favorite that I heard once was, that's where they draw you, but it doesn't look like you. Ma'am, what you have experienced is bad caricaturists. Just this past summer, at my retail spot on the Halifax waterfront, I had an experience with a customer who had seen the caricature that I had drawn of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. And as soon as he sat down, he said, "Can you give me a big forehead like that guy?" And I said, "But you don't have a big forehead, so if I draw you with one, it won't look like you." And he said, "Well, isn't that the point?" I tried to explain to him that no, the point was that it was supposed to look like him, but exaggerated. And he said, "Well, why did you give that guy a big forehead?" And I said, "Well, Mark Carney does have a big forehead, so I exaggerated it and drew it really big. This conversation was more than anything what made me think it would be worthwhile to make this video discussing the definition of a caricature, because that wasn't the only conversation I've ever had or overheard that made it clear that a lot of people do think that a caricature isn't meant to look like the subject. It is. Not a photorealistic, accurate to life representation of your likeness, but people who see it are meant to recognize it as you. I've often heard among caricaturists that a good caricature of you looks more like you than you do. Now, that may sound kind of self-important and pretentious, but there is a certain validity to it. I know that there are a lot of people who do get it, hopefully more than there are who don't, but all this experience has shown me that there are a lot of people who don't quite understand just what it is that we caricaturists do. So let's get into it. Firstly, as I kind of touched on, an absolutely key element to a drawing qualifying as a caricature is that it has to have some level of exaggeration involved. In fact, the dictionary definition, I don't really want to be one of those people who introduce a topic by talking about the dictionary definition. I'm sorry. Trust me, it works here. The dictionary definition of the word caricature states that it's a picture, description, or imitation of a person in which certain striking characteristics are exaggerated in order to create a comic or grotesque effect. To fit the actual definition of a caricature, this drawing must have some level of exaggeration. Now, does that mean it has to be extreme exaggeration? No, the definition doesn't stipulate how far the exaggeration has to go, only that it is exaggerated. In my own caricature work, I strive for a fairly high level of exaggeration. I was inspired early in my skill development by the puppets created by the British caricaturists Peter Fluck, be careful how to pronounce that one, and Roger Law for the political satire TV series Spitting Image, and later by the work of German artist Sebastian Kruger. These are two solid examples of caricatures that are pushed to that grotesque degree that the definition that I read mentions. But there are many caricaturists who push it way further than those. Ralph Steadman is one that comes to mind. In recent years, I've been striving to push myself to go for a somewhat more heightened exaggeration in my live work, as I've drawn inspiration from the extremely popular TikTok videos of a couple who go by the name of Caricature Party, as well as the work that I've been watching on social media by other caricaturists, such as Ninja Sketch, Caricature, Sketchosaurus. There are many others. I believe the caricature community owes a debt to those artists, as they've made it kind of trendy in recent years to get your caricature drawn and to have your mind more open to having your features really stretched. So thanks to all of you. But as I said, that's not nearly the only possible or acceptable approach to exaggeration in caricature. Many artists working in the caricature field today are doing excellent work while keeping the exaggerations relatively reined in. Robin Schwartzman, Daniel Stieglitz, the Instagrammer Big Sam Art 1. These are just a few examples that I recommend checking out. Even if you go back to the masters from Mad Magazine, who were the inspirations that made a lot of caricaturists, myself included, want to start learning to draw caricatures in the first place. Illustrators like Mort Drucker, Jack Davis, Sam Viviano, just mavericks of capturing likenesses. And there was a certain degree of exaggeration there, but not one that you'd really call extreme or grotesque. If we put a photo of a famous face alongside one of the mad artists' representations of them, we can see that the facial proportions they've drawn definitely aren't true to life, but they also aren't exactly what you'd call grotesque, but they're still caricatures. Now, as I alluded to earlier, it's important to note that for a caricature to look like its subject, despite the exaggerations, the features to which the exaggerations are applied can't just be randomly chosen. The caricaturist doesn't just choose the parts of the face to exaggerate based on whim. A good caricaturist has to understand basic facial structure well enough to recognize what it is about the face that they're drawing that makes it unique, that deviates from what we might call normal or average, and how those parts fit together in relation to each other. One thing that I've had people say a lot when sitting down to get their caricature drawn is, just don't give me a really big chin. And then I look at them and they don't have a big chin. And I think in most of these cases, they've just seen a lot of caricatures with really big chins. And so again, they think that that's what they are to expect from any caricature. Maybe they think that that's the definition. That's where they draw you with a really big chin. Let me be clear. A good caricaturist isn't going to draw you with extra long teeth or extraordinarily tiny eyes if you don't have long teeth or tiny eyes to begin with. What we strive to do is observe what the standout features of your specific face are. And those are the things that we exaggerate. So, the next time you pass a street caricaturist or see one working at a festival or party, and a child or another person asks you, what is a caricature? Don't just tell them big head, small body, or they draw you like a cartoon character. You can explain that a caricature is a drawing that aims to look like the subject, but with the features exaggerated. Then you might also have to explain to them what exaggerated means. You're on your own with that one. Now, one more point I think is worth exploring in connection with this. There are caricaturists out there who don't exaggerate at all. When you look at their drawings of people's faces, there is zero stretching or distorting of the features. It's almost like a direct, straight portrait, but with a big head and a small body. Does this mean that these drawings don't qualify as caricatures? Well, by this dictionary definition that I'm going by, yes. But as people all over the internet are fond of pointing out when their spelling or grammar are criticized, language evolves. Definitions of words do change over time as people use the words differently. So maybe with that in mind, if that's what someone thinks of when they think of a caricature, if there are enough people who think that that's what the word caricature means, does that mean that those drawings do qualify as caricatures? Could be. Maybe the dictionaries of the future will include an alternate definition of the word caricature that just says big head, small body, or that's where they draw you, but it doesn't look like you. Look, I'm not here to pass judgment on any working caricaturist's work or dictate how they should draw. If you're hiring your services as a caricaturist and your drawings of people have no element of exaggeration to them, and especially if your subjects are happy with what they're getting from you, more power to you. Every branch of art needs variation and the interpretation of individual artists. If that's you, I'm not going to tell you that you should be doing it any differently. I'll keep exaggerating, you keep not exaggerating, and between us all, we'll cover the market. We'll give everyone someone that they can go to regardless of what they think the definition of the word caricature is. Just keep drawing. That's the most important thing. The world needs art. Let's keep giving it to them. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd be grateful if you could show it by hitting that like button. If you liked it enough to want some more, please subscribe to my channel, ring that bell for alerts about when I post anything new. And if there's anyone else you know who you think would find this topic of interest, please share. Drop a comment down below about your definition of caricature. Let's have a discussion about it. I just ask that you please keep the comments respectful and polite. I'm Don. This is Caricatures by Don, and I haven't thought of a good catchphrase to sign off my videos with yet. Thanks for watching.